Coming up on this Monday edition of Daybreak, President Park Geun-hye highlights innovation to achieve sustainable growth and introduces her creative economy policy to business leaders ahead of the APEC summit in Bali this week. The US carries out 2 separate raids on Islamist leaders in Libya and Somalia, capturing a senior al-Qaeda member accused of bombing US embassies in Africa 15 years ago. The Libyan Prime Minister wants an explanation for the raid. Plus, UN inspectors begin to dismantle the Syrian government's stockpile of chemical weapons. Daybreak begins now.
You're watching Daybreak on Monday, October 7th, and I'm Choi here in Seoul. President Park Geun-hye is currently in Bali, Indonesia, the first leg of her 8-day trip to the Southeast Asian region this week. Ahead of the opening of the APEC summit today, President Park addressed the business leaders where she highlighted the need to innovate in sustainable growth. Our presidential correspondent, Oh Jin-ju, who is traveling with the president, filed this report.
President Park emphasized that innovation is the only source of sustainable growth in the world economy. Addressing over 1,000 business leaders from the region upon her arrival in Bali on Sunday, President Park said a, quote, innovation crisis was the main reason behind the current global economic slowdown and high unemployment.
혁신만이 새로운 성장 동력을 끊임없이 창출하며 일자리를 만들어 나갈 수 있습니다.
She then laid out her vision for a so-called creative economy, saying there needed to be a, quote, innovative paradigm and a new strategy for economic growth. How is a creative economy different from what we have now?
그렇기 때문에 창조 경제에는 성장의 한계가 없고 지속 가능한 성장을 달성할 수 있습니다.
President Park said a creative economy is based on an individual's creativity, which is inexhaustible and doesn't have any negative side effects, such as, for example, pollution. She added a creative economy could also be a way to overcome unbalanced growth in the global economy, as creativity is within each nation and individual, whether it be a developing or a developed country.
저는 개도국의 창조 경제 수요를 기반으로 혁신과 개발 모델을 전수하고 영내 동반 성장을 함께 실현해 나가기를 기대합니다.
President Park called on nations to strip away regulations that hinder new industries and rework business regulations from a system that has many restraints to an economy that allows individuals and businesses to work outside the box.
Later this Monday, President Park will take part in the first session of the APEC summit on strengthening the multilateral trading system. And on the sidelines of the official gathering today, she's also scheduled to hold bilateral talks with leaders of 4 of the participating countries, China, Canada, Mexico, and Peru. Oh Jin-ju, Arirang News, Bali.
Korea's ruling and opposition parties have been mired in a deep political dispute over former president's remarks on a contested maritime border and the whereabouts of the 2007 Inter-Korean Summit transcript. The prosecution is set to summon around 30 people from the former Roh Moo-hyun administration today. Our Park Ji-won has more.
The ruling Saenuri party says the National Intelligence Service needs to release its tape recording of the 2007 Inter-Korean Summit between then President Roh Moo-hyun and late North Korean leader Kim Jong-il to reveal the truth about the ongoing controversy surrounding the summit meeting and its missing transcript. Prosecutors investigating the whereabouts of the transcript announced last week that it was never been transferred to the National Archives as it should have been. Instead, prosecutors found 2 versions of the transcript in an electronic government document management system used by President Roh. One of the versions was retrieved by prosecutors among deleted files.
We need to know why the No administration discarded a historic transcript in an illegal manner, in violation of the nation's record management law that was made by the No administration itself.
The opposition Democratic Party is watching the situation closely but refraining from making too many comments on the matter. It says the controversy over the transcript is unrelated to the livelihoods of citizens. The DP says it wants to focus on other political issues, such as tax reforms or senior pensions.
With sincere preparations, the party will show the people what it is like to be true opposition lawmakers that fight at the National Assembly.
The controversy surrounding the summit began last October during a parliamentary inspection when the ruling Saenuri Party lawmakers said former President No made remarks about giving up the nation's de facto maritime border in the West Sea during the 2007 Inter-Korean Summit. The political turmoil had compounded ever since, as the transcript of the summit was nowhere to be found. Prosecutors plan to summon around 30 people of the former No administration for questioning and announce their official results by the end of the month. The results are expected to have big knockout effects on a by-election schedule at the end of the month. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
The South Korean government plans to use flexibility in handling foreign investment into the inter-Korean Kaesang industrial complex in line with the South economic sanctions on North Korea. Ahead of a government audit, the Unification Ministry in Seoul said the sanctions following the sinking of the Cheonan warship in 2010 are not directly linked to the so-called developmental normalization of the complex, which includes inviting foreign investment. Unification Minister Ryu Gil-jae told lawmakers last week that investment by foreign firms does not conflict with the sanctions that ban new capital going into the joint business park. The two Koreas had agreed to invite foreign investors to the factory zone at the end of the month, but it's uncertain whether that will happen as inter-Korean relations have since become frosty again. Many working moms here in Korea are often left with no other choice but to put their careers on hold as they tend to child-rearing. Local companies, however, are offering new employment opportunities to mothers who want to get back to work. Our Polly reports.
It's been nearly 7 years since Miss No used an espresso machine. She left her previous job to take care of her children, but this refresher course is quickly catching her up to speed. No is one of the many mothers invited by Starbucks Korea to be retrained so they can re-enter the workforce.
After having my second child, I had to quit due to daycare issues. But during that time, I felt a bit upset and sometimes regretted leaving the career I had built up. But now that the company first contacted me,
Starbucks Korea launched a support program to retain skilled employees, many of whom were quitting due to the pressures of childcare.
We wanted to hire back aspiring partners who already had excellent know-how and experience. By starting to create jobs, this can become a win-win situation for both individuals and companies.
The iconic coffee company is hoping to attract about 100 former employees a year through the program, which includes much more flexible working hours. It's a growing trend among large firms here in Korea that have recognized this untapped talent pool. It's been 12 years since Miss Oh, another eager participant in the so-called returnership program, quit her job.
Since there was such a long break in my career, the desire for me to go back to work increased, and I had more passion to do so as well. Also, compared to when I was younger, there certainly seems to be more flexibility.
Demand for such programs shows that mothers are making a comeback in Korea's job market, while hinting at further signs of a more diversified future workforce. Paul Yi, Arirang News. If you want the latest news from Korea and around the world,
return to the negotiation. President Park Geun-hye plans, given the current circumstances.
On your way to work or at home,
Defense Ministry. The legislature will convene a.
Tune into Daybreak on Arirang TV.
Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said Tuesday that the U.S. forces launched 2 major operations in Africa over the weekend, capturing a senior al-Qaeda figure wanted for the bombings of U.S. embassies in 1998, but they failed to capture a leader of the al-Shabaab group in connection with the Kenyan shopping mall attack last month. Our Kim Min-ji has the latest.
U.S. forces carried out 2 separate raids in Libya and Somalia on Saturday, nabbing a top al-Qaeda figure but failing to capture the target involved in last month's attack on an upscale shopping mall in Kenya. In Tripoli, U.S. commandos captured Nazi al-Rukai, also known as Abu Anas al-Libi, who was wanted for a suspected role in the bombings of the U.S. embassy in Kenya and Tanzania in 1998 that killed more than 220 people. In Somalia, U.S. Navy SEALs raided a home in the coastal town of Barawe, believed to be the base of al-Shabaab, but they failed to secure their target. U.S. officials say the raid was in response to the attack on Westgate shopping mall last month. More than 60 people, including a Korean citizen, were killed during the 4-day siege. The al-Qaeda-linked militant group al-Shabaab claimed responsibility for the attack. The Kenyan military on Saturday also revealed the names of 4 attackers behind the shopping mall attack. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry confirmed the capture of the senior al-Qaeda figure, saying the raids show the U.S. will not stop its efforts to hold those accountable who conduct acts of terror. Speaking in Indonesia ahead of the Asia-Pacific Summit, Kerry said terrorists can run, but they can't hide. The Libyan government on Sunday asked the U.S. government provide clarification on the abduction of Libby and demanded to know why it was not informed of the raid in advance. The U.S. said it had notified the Libyan government, but Libya denies this. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
A team of international experts has started to destroy Syria's chemical weapons arsenal and related equipment. No further details have been released, but Syria's stockpile is estimated to include more than 1,000 tons of sarin, as well as other deadly agents stored in dozens of different locations. The dismantling work comes after the U.S. and Russia brokered a deal to see Damascus hand over its chemical arms stockpile by mid-2014. Speaking with Germany's Der Spiegel magazine, Syrian President Bashar al-Assad said he hoped Germany would mediate the international talks in Geneva next month that will seek a diplomatic solution to end the 30-month-long civil war in Syria. The Syrian leader, however, said he will not negotiate with the rebels unless they give up their weapons. Iran is calling on world powers to draw up new proposals for talks on its nuclear program, which are set to restart next week. Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif says Tehran's standpoint has changed since the election of Hassan Rouhani as president, and that a new approach was needed. The existing proposals aim to tighten regulations on uranium enrichment in Iran. President Rouhani says he will bring a new plan to substantive nuclear negotiations that are due to take place next Tuesday in Geneva. At least 44 people have been killed and more than 100 wounded in a day of deadly protests in Egypt. State media reported Sunday that the fighting began as both the supporters of deposed President Mohamed Morsi and his opponents took to the streets in major cities in Egypt as the military-backed government marked the 40th anniversary of the 1973 Arab-Israeli War. Most of the casualties were reported in Cairo when the army opened fire on Muslim Brotherhood demonstrators. Security sources say protesters were attempting to take their protest towards Tahrir Square, a popular uprising location where they toppled autocrat Hosni Mubarak back in 2011. As the U.S. government shutdown looks set to extend into a second week, the effects in the U.S. are becoming more pronounced, with private firms also feeling the crunch. Leaders at the APEC summit this week have also expressed their concerns about the effect of the shutdown that will have on the global economy. Our Kim Ji-yeon reports.
The ripple effects of the U.S. government shutdown are starting to hit the country's multi-billion-dollar defense industry. Lockheed Martin says it has put 3,000 workers on unpaid leave and warned that additional workers may also be sent home if the shutdown continues. This follows helicopter manufacturer United Technologies' decision to lay off some 2,000 employees following the shutdown.
They should give up their paychecks. You know, they should reserve the right to get a paycheck, to know what it feels like to not have the money to provide for your family, to be able to put food on the table, to be able to put gas in your car.
At the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation meeting in Bali on Sunday, U.S. Commerce Secretary Penny Pritzker warned that more businesses in the U.S. will suffer from the federal shutdown. In turn, Asian leaders at the meeting voiced their fears about the impact the U.S. shutdown will have on the global economy and called for Washington to find a better way to deal with its fiscal problems. The U.S. government is currently in deadlock over its budget issues. Republican House Speaker John Boehner says he will refuse to raise the U.S. debt ceiling without a, quote, serious conversation with the Obama administration. Republicans want President Obama's signature health care law delayed in return for them approving the federal budget. President Obama is refusing to negotiate with the Republicans unless they pass a temporary bill to reopen the federal government. Obama also wants to raise the country's borrowing limit of $16.7 trillion in order to avoid debt default, which may happen next week if the two sides fail to reach a compromise. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Most people will know that vitamin D is essential for strong, healthy bones. But a new study shows a low concentration of vitamin D could increase a person's chance of developing nasal allergies. Our Na Young-kyung has the details.
When the seasons change, the difference in temperature from morning to evening increases, making people more prone to various illnesses. So it's no surprise the number of patients suffering from runny noses and related irritations jumps about threefold in September and October.
I'm always coughing and my nose keeps running. Sometimes my eyes are even itchy.
For some people, these symptoms are indicative of allergic rhinitis, a kind of nasal inflammation that occurs when certain substances enter the body of a person whose immune system has been compromised. The symptoms often get worse the more you stay indoors. According to a new study, that's because the body is unable to get enough vitamin D, which controls reactivity to allergies.
Vitamin D suppresses unnecessary immune reactions when certain substances enter the body.
If the concentration of vitamin D in the blood is lower than the required amount, the likelihood that a person could get allergic rhinitis is said to jump by up to 56%. The symptoms, such as a runny nose and sinus infections, are exacerbated by a lack of vitamin D, which is true of about 6 in 10 adults in Korea, according to the study. Vitamin D can be obtained by eating salmon, milk, and eggs, but we mostly get it from sunlight. With more people working long hours indoors and using sunscreen when heading outside, there are fewer opportunities to get enough vitamin D from the sun. Doctors say remedying the problem is relatively simple. All it takes is just 20 minutes in the sun each day. Na Hyun-kyung, Arirang News.
And a good Monday morning to you all as we kick things off with the 2013 Korean Grand Prix, which took place at the Korea International Circuit in Yeongam. Now, after Sebastian Vettel of Red Bull Racing took pole position on Saturday, he never lost that lead and breezed through for his third straight Korean Grand Prix victory on Sunday. Then a race filled with chaos, including Mark Webber of Red Bull Racing crashing and having his machine on fire. His teammate kept his composure and finished first as he inched closer to his fourth straight World Championship. Meanwhile, two Lotus drivers finished second and third as Kimi Räikkönen and Roman Grosjean made podium finishes on the day as well. Meanwhile, the 2014 Korean Grand Prix has been scheduled for April instead of the usual October date. And if you're a baseball fan here in the nation, this past weekend was quite exciting to say the least, as the Hanwha Eagles beat the Nexen Heroes in the final game, as well as the LG Twins, who beat the Doosan Bears, which means the LG Twins finished second in the regular season and will get a bye in the first round. In the first round of the playoffs, it will be the third-place Nexen Heroes facing off against the Doosan Bears, who finished off the season in fourth place. The winner of the best-of-5 series will go on to face off against the LG Twins in another best-of-5 series, with the regular season champions, the Samsung Lions, awaiting in the Korea series. Meanwhile, Game 1 between the Nexen Heroes and the Doosan Bears kick off tomorrow at Mokdong. Now, another big series over in the major leagues, as Ryuhyun and the LA Dodgers are set for Game 3 of the National League Division Series later today. With both teams tied at 1 game apiece, Game 3 starters will be two rookie pitchers with two very identical records. Ryuhyun, who finished off the regular season at 14-8 with an ERA of 3.00, and Julio Teheran, who's also 14-8 with an ERA of 3.20. Now, a very crucial game in the best-of-5 series, as Game 3 takes place at Dodger Stadium. And moving over to the K-League Classic, where FC Seoul took on Incheon United, with both sides finishing off scoreless after 90 minutes as they split a point each. But let's check out our next match here. Seongnam-Ira Cheonma taking on Jeju United. Now, going into the game here, check this out. The whistle blows and takes just 30 seconds for the first goal to be scored, as Lee Jung-won with a left foot shot drills the right side of the net as Seongnam takes an early 1-0 lead. But 4 minutes later, here comes the equalizer as An Jong-hoon finds the back of the net, and already it's 1-1. But spoke too soon. We shift over to the 9th minute of the match. Holy cow, another one here. This time, Kim Dong-sam getting one past the goalkeeper, and Seongnam is up once again 2-1. 3 goals being scored in the first 10 minutes of the match, but in the remaining 80 minutes, no more goals as Seongnam holds on to win this one 2-1. And shifting gears to the 2013 World Gymnastics Championships, call him the Prince of Vaults, because Yang Ak-sun just won his second straight gold medal in vaults. After finishing first in the preliminary rounds, the 21-year-old gymnast pulls off his famous Yang Won on the first attempt, followed by the Lopez on the second attempt to score 15.533 overall. Now, the score was good enough for a first-place finish and his second straight gold medal finish. While many expected the debut of the Yang 2, he will play it safe here this time and will showcase it in the future. And finishing things off on the ice, as the 2013 Short Track World Cup. Now, the South Korean women finished first, second, and third at the 1,000-meter event, as Shim Seok-hee, Park Seung-hee, and Kim Ah-rang swept the event. Meanwhile, over on the men's side, Wee Da-jing finished first, followed by Victor An, aka An Hyun-soo, finishing second, and Park Se-young earning the bronze medal for Korea. And so with that said, that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day, and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Good Monday morning to you. I'm Lee Ji-hyun with your latest weather forecast. Well, I hope you had a wonderful weekend. It was a bit cloudy yesterday, but weather was nearly perfect on Saturday for all of us. But unlike continuous beautiful weather we had last week, weather forecast for this week seems to be unstable, as we have another typhoon Danas on the way. So we're kicking off a new week under overcast skies this morning, and it will start to rain in the late evening from Jeju and will spread to the most regions. So tomorrow, the nation should feel the effects of Typhoon Danas with high winds and heavy rain, and it's likely to be particularly strong in the southern coast and near Gyeongsang and Jeju regions. So please keep this in mind and be sure to check the forecast frequently. And right now, thick clouds are covering up the peninsula, so we are waking up to mostly cloudy skies in most regions, and it's raining in some of the cities in the east at the moment. And the morning lows are slightly higher than yesterday, but afternoon highs will be lower for the central region, while southern provinces will have milder daytime highs. So with that, let's take a look at the readings for today. Now, Seoul will get up to 23 degrees Celsius, which is 73 degrees in Fahrenheit, and afternoon highs in Daegu and Gwangju will be at 25 and 27, while Busan soar to 26 under lots of clouds. Now let's see how other regions are looking. It looks like Jeju, Daejeon will also top out at 26 and Dokdo will make into the low 20s. Now that's all for Korea, and here's the global forecast for viewers around the world. That's all for me at this hour. Enjoy your Monday morning commute, and back to you, Sun, in the studio.
Thank you, Jiyeon, and those are the stories we have for you at this hour. Stay with us throughout the day as we bring you the latest headlines.